15 high low is in place within the discount of the actual swing range. We then get that internal leg up. We then can wait for price to pull back into the discount of that internal leg, right? And then there's plenty of opportunities for entries, which we'll get into at a later date, to look for longs in here, especially during London, and then boom, you're off. And you use all of that to do what? To anticipate the 4-hour pullback up into the premium prices, right? And then we get up there, we can then look to start to see the M15 switches bearish, right? To then anticipate that 4-hour lower high is in place. So what's the most aggressive way to do that, at least from an M15 perspective? Well, it's bullish the whole time, and then we get that minor pullback, and then we take the low, right? We get that change of character, and then what happens? You end up getting and anticipating, right, that 4-hour lower high, and then we get that next move to the downside, right? So on and so forth. Hopefully this is really starting to kick in now. Even when we come down here, we just look at this last bit of price action. We get a 4-hour breaker structure. What do we expect? We expect the 4-hour pullback. Now, in this case, actually, no, we do. So what do we get? We get a 4-hour change of character, right? Because that is the low. We spike that low, which means, I draw on the 4-hour change of character, it means we have the 4-hour high there, right? So then we get that bullish 4-hour change of character. What is that on the 15-minute time frame? That 4-hour change of character is the M15 switching bullish, right? So when price came down here, right, at this point here, get the paintbrush, to try and form that M15 breaker structure, it tried to close below and form that lower low, but it failed to do so. Then what did we get? We'll mark this out properly. We've got an M15 change of character down here, right, which then gives us really good indication, right, that we're going to get at least an M15 pullback up to the premium, up to the lower high, because that would be the M15 lower high at that point. Or we're trying to anticipate what? We're anticipating the M15 is going to switch bullish all the way from down here, because we understand that the 4-hour needs to pull back, right? And we're going to get that bigger pullback potentially up into the premium of this bearish range, right? So now when you see that the M15 fails to form a lower low, we get that bullish change of character, we get a pullback into here, right? We look for that higher low and we can start buying. And that whole time we were just trying to anticipate this large 4-hour move here back up into the premium, okay? Right, and now it's up into the premium. What can we anticipate? We can anticipate that the 4-hour is still bearish, that we're going to get that 4-hour lower high, and we can try and look for moves to take out these lows here, right? So how can we anticipate where the 4-hour lower high is as it starts to get into the premium? Well, we just wait for it to start to switch bearish. So what do we get? Well, we get that minor movement up here, we get that movement up there. Now we pull back, we fail to form a higher high, and we take this low, it's just a substructure low. So you can remember what I said about substructure? You can still use that as an indication that we're about to switch bearish, but minor breaker structure is more significant. And where is the minor breaker structure? Well, that's the minor pullback. So when we break that low and we get that minor breaker structure, for me, that would be the M15 change of character that I would personally want to see. I don't really like using substructure breaks, so minor breaker structure is what I want to see for my change of character. Then we get that indication, right, that the lower high may be in place, or the internal lower high, I should say, on the M15, and we can anticipate, right, the M15 switching bearish, and then we can try and see if that's going to be the 4-hour lower high there, right? Now, not saying that it definitely will be, and there's other things that we need to look at to increase the probability, because we've only just pulled up into the premium, and the M15's only just had that change of character there, right? So that's the first good sign that we can start looking for shorts. But it's no guarantee. What you will find in live market is that will happen. We can start to position ourselves and look for shorts, and we can start to target these lows. But sometimes it will literally just be a bit of a pullback, right? And then it will change character again, and it will continue up higher. And it just simply means that the 4-hour chart is just trying to pull up into more premium prices, okay? And that's okay, but we continue to follow our plan. We're not attached to it. We just wait for our setups to align. We await for multiple time frames to start to switch bearish to give us more confirmation, right? And then we position ourselves again. And we just keep playing that game again and again and again, because, I don't know for certain, no one knows if we are going to form a lower high here and run those lows. The probabilities are at the moment is that we will, but what could happen, and you have to not forget, is that we are heavily in discount prices in the weekly chart in a bullish range, right? So at any point, this weekly high low could form, especially now that we've taken out that weekly low, right? So price has now done its job, and at any point we could then go, right? But I'm not going to start taking that with a lot of seriousness and conviction, right? If I was to get in a long, let's say I entered a long trade, I'm not going to suddenly go, well, the weekly's bullish, I'm going to try and take out that weekly high. Why? Well, I have no confirmation of that just yet, because the 4-hour is still bearish, the daily is still bearish, right? The only kind of bullish time frame there is at the moment is the M15 and lower. So what I will do is I will keep essentially looking for those 4-hour and daily shorts until the 4-hour and the daily start to switch bullish. Once the daily starts to get that change of character and starts to switch bullish, right, then okay, now we have a lot more confirmation that potentially the weekly high or low is in place. Now, don't get me wrong, you could have seen this M15 change of character down here and taken this long down here, and you were well within your rights to swing that position and target a weekly high, right? But you just have to manage your expectations of the probabilities of when and won't that happen. Because if you are the type of trader who always tries to swing those weekly moves, a lot of times you're going to give a lot of profit back to the table. Okay, now we'll talk about management in a lot more depth later on and how we can do that. We can take partial profits along the way, and we can take hedges and things like that. But really at this stage, I just want you to really be thinking about how interconnected the time frames are and how we use that to increase our probability of entering trades, right? Because ideally we want to be trading pro trend with as many time frames in agreement with each other, but we don't have to do that, right? We can like, I keep saying, like Bruce Lee says, right, flow like water. We can literally ping pong these positions and trade back and forth. So we have our trend biases, but we're not attached to them. We're happy to know that the 4-hour is still bearish, but we can look for both longs and shorts. It's just knowing that the 4-hour bearish will dictate how far we try and push those moves. Okay, so yeah, I guess one last thing I'll say is, just looking at these 4 time frames, what do we get? If we get a 4-hour break of structure and we're expecting that 4-hour pullback, and we see the 4-hour change of character, what was that on the 15-minute time frame? Right, it was a 15-minute change of character. So we see the 15-minute change of character, which then leads to the 15-minute break of structure. That 15 break of structure, right, to give us that bullish trend change was what? It was a 4-hour change of character. That 4-hour change of character can often lead to a 4-hour break of structure, a 4-hour bullish trend change, which would then give us what? That would give us that daily change of character. That daily change of character could then lead to the 4-hour, so the daily break of structure, the daily swing trend, the daily swing trend change, right? And then that daily swing trend change could then lead to the weekly change of character, right? And then that's how the changes of characters and the true breaks of structure, those true sort of swing trend changes, can give you confirmation working your way downwards to upwards, to really give an indication of what is going to happen next. And again, I'll go over it again, right? Just to really drive this home. I know it's a bit pedantic, but see, when I'm in the live market, it's very easy to get caught up, especially with all the time frames, when you'll be looking at even more than 4 time frames at times, and you're trying to get entries on the M1. Things can be moving a lot, and you can get very lost in price action. But literally every time I sit down the charts, I say to myself, speak to myself like a baby, like I'm trying to program this into an algorithm. I follow the same mechanical framework. What are we doing here, right? Well, the weekly is bullish. Where are my highs and lows? Right, that's a strong low, that's a weak high. Price is back into the discount, right? And trying to anticipate where that weekly high low may form, so on and so forth. Same on the daily chart. Where are we? Are we bullish or bearish? Are we in the premium and discount? Where is my weak or strong high or low? Same on the 4-hour chart, right? So we've had our 4-hour pullback, we've had our 4-hour change of character, but where are we? We're now in the 4-hour premium. So I have to start thinking that potentially a 4-hour lower high may be forming. How can I anticipate what that 4-hour lower high may be in place? Well, we get a 15-minute change of character, but ideally I want to see a 15-minute bearish trend change just to give me a little bit more confirmation, because that bearish trend change on the 15-minute will more likely be that 4-hour change of character, right? So then you're getting more and more confirmation. So on and so forth. So I'll leave that there before this video goes on any longer. I really just think nailing multi-time frame market structure. I know I've ranted about the importance of market structure a lot, but I just it is king. It becomes before everything else, and no matter what strategy you trade, it will really have the biggest determination on how successful you are, in my personal opinion. So that's why I just think it's so important you spend so much time mastering this before you even start to overlay other concepts that we are going to look at. This becomes before everything, and it's what always has my main focus. It will literally be the biggest dependent on how high your strike rate is and how high an average risk to reward ratio that you can achieve. And obviously we want to get both of those as high as possible, as that will really truly define how good of an edge that we have in the market. So do this on your charts. Hopefully you should already have the 4-hour a lot of the 4-hour structure laid out. So if you're doing it euro-dollar, this is a really good way to do it, right? Just mark out the weekly range you're in, then go down to the daily and just do all of the the daily trends. You may want to do it all at one time and then go back through, see how that looks on the 4-hour chart, right, where you have your daily changes of character. see how that syncs up on the 4 hour chart. And when you go through the 4 hour chart and you're looking at where you had your 4 hour changes of character, right? Look on the M15 and see how the M15 switches trend. But I also want you to look at, a lot of times where those false signals are occurring, right? And try and get a good indication, especially with whatever pair you're trading and concentrating on. Try and get a really good feel for it of, say to yourself, do I always want to be waiting for price? If it's bullish, do I always want to wait for it to be pulling back to the discount? Or if I don't, so let's talk about this area here, right? When the daily was bullish and it was pulling back here, and we had, if I sync up the 4 hour chart, right, this is where you will really start to refine your trading, when you really start to get comfortable with this and ask these questions to yourself, right? So when the daily is pulling back and I want the 4 hour chart to look bullish, right? Because you want to try and time where that daily high low is. Well, let me rephrase this actually. If the daily is pulling back and you're expecting a daily high low and you want to get long, right, the easy thing to say is, okay, well, I'm not going to look for longs, I'm not going to look for that daily high low until it's in the premium, okay? But you want to figure out of what confluence do you personally need to see in order to kind of give you a good indication that the daily high low may be in place, so that you can take a long position and hold that long position and try and swing it to form a daily high. Now, some of you may want to see a 4 hour bullish trend change, so you wouldn't be kind of holding those longs until over here. Some of you may only want to see a 4 hour change of character, right, which would pretty much just be a 15-minute bullish trend change. Whereas others of you may, every time you get that 15-minute change of character, I mean, this isn't where it was over here, but every time you see a 15-minute change of character, right, you may be the type of trader that just wants to then try and swing it and always hold on to it, but then you have to accept that potentially you're going to be getting in too early a lot of the times, and price may want to pull back deeper, right? But it's just taking the time, getting experience, and collecting data of when you're personally going to be happy and when you can state in your trade plan of what you think is good enough confluence to then want to try and push those swing moves and have those more sort of higher time frame targets. But yeah, so what I would say is at a minimum, go through the bit of price action that I've gone through. Obviously, if you're looking at this at a much later date than when this video was recorded, then you're probably going to have a decent amount of price action, obviously to the right of the screen that you can see now on mine, and maybe just continue on from where I've done, right? Do what I've done, go over it, but obviously it's good to try and do price action that I haven't already spoken through, just so you can really practice it and go through it yourself there. Just spend lots of time, go through all the different time frames, 15-minute, go even lower, right? Look down here on the 5 minute and the 1 minute. How did this all play out, right? How could you have potentially got even earlier, so on and so forth, and just get really, really comfortable and collect a lot of data. So I hope you took some value from that. Hopefully now you can really see all the theoretical concepts that we've gone through, and now we've built our way all the way up to sort of multi-time frame analysis and how it's starting to piece together. So I highly encourage that you watch through just the market structure sections alone. Watch through all of these videos again and again and again. Try and just drill it into your unconscious, and eventually it will just feel really, really natural, especially when you practice this in the live market and you see how it develops day by day. But I'll leave that there. Have a practice. Don't be afraid to share the charts in the community if you want some feedback, and see how you get on. All right.